Welcome back and welcome back to the Horror Master YouTube channel. Welcome back to episode number 7 of my controversial album series, which, like I mentioned before so many times, we are just at the tip of the iceberg. There are so many album covers that have yet to tackle on the metal and rock spectrum, which eventually I will get some of the big ones, which I've been getting to mostly like the most notable controversial album covers. But like I said, there's so many album covers out there that I've yet to talk about that I'm gonna eventually gonna talk about eventually. But again, guys, thank you guys so much for the reception I've been getting all these episodes, especially the latest one of the Slayer's God Hates Us All, which if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen the rest of my episodes, I'm gonna put a link somewhere up there depending on my editing skills. But regardless of that, let's get to today's topic of discussion. So in episode number 7, we're gonna be tackling an album cover that a lot of people ask me when was I eventually gonna do this album cover because of the iconography, and I told them it's gonna come out eventually. So to all those people asking me when I was gonna do this album cover, here it is. And of course, I am talking about the debut album, or for some people, depending on who you're talking about, either the sophomore album or debut album, depending on Tom G's words attitude of the day or the regular. Regardless, we're here to talk about To Mega Therion, released on October 27, 1995 on Noise Records. So again, Celtic Frost, one of the most influential metal bands of all time, being one of the key bands that helped influence both black and death metal, of course, previously known as Hellhammer, which of course the former members, of course, Tanji Warrior and Martin, God rest his soul, helped develop the sound of what eventually would be death metal and black metal, and later on, sort of a bit of death do in their latter portion of the career. But of course, with their monstrous EP or debut album, they want to call it Morbid Tales, kind of was the blueprint of what eventually become the latter day albums. With To Mega Therion, they wanted to kind of kick it up a notch, and of course, they decided to collaborate with H.R. Geiger, which for a lot of people might know who it is. For those who don't know, H.R. Geiger was one of the main people behind the creation of the Xenomorph in the Alien franchise. He was the one behind kind of helping how to create the modern day, I guess, Alien. That's the perfect way I can say it. So it went for H.R. Geiger, the modern day Xenomorph, and will eventually become the Alien franchise, wouldn't be what it is today. So, for those contributions to the horror genre, already gives the credit for me, being that I'm a huge horror fan as well. So to make a Therion, it's in Greek, and in Greek it translates to the Great Beast. Of course, to make Celtic Frost is a band that likes to push buttons, and when they decide to make this album cover, it kind of pushed buttons that you never thought could have been touched. I mean, when you have a demon behind, sort of like two kind of monstrous tentacles behind him, and having a crucifixion of Jesus Christ as a slingshot, that kind of already, it's going to be brutal and controversial as hell. Not to mention, of course, H.R. Geiger painted this painting under the name Satan I or Satan 1, depending how you want to interpret the, the, the painting, which, if I ever had the opportunity to see this painting in real life, I'd be horrified, but at the same time, I'd be amazed at the artistry, that because, it's something that honestly, when I first saw this album cover, I honestly thought that this was a painting that was painted during the Renaissance, or maybe during the Renaissance in the 1700s, maybe as far as I can take of maybe the 1600s. But when I was doing research for this album cover, I didn't realize that H.R. Geiger painted this during the 19, I think it was the 19, see, he passed away in 014, so like in the 1960s, 1970s. So pretty much he created this album cover almost at the behest of Celtic Frost, which eventually H.R. Geiger and Tom G. Warrior, after this album cover, began to kind of form like a special bond between both of them, that eventually, of course, created some of the later Celtic Frost albums and some of the Triptychon kind of things, until, of course, H.R. Geiger untimely dead back in 2014. But regardless, this album cover, is regardless very controversial. Again, like I mentioned before, if you really want something controversial to be really controversial, just tackle any religion, any Christianic iconography, anything that involves Jesus, the cross, demons, Satan, and you're golden. That's pretty much the idea of controversy. You want to push people's buttons and think for themselves and wondering, is this real? What is the meaning behind this painting, this album? Some of the times it's just plain and simple. Some of the times you have to think outside the box. Maybe there's some hidden message between the album cover. Sometimes really not. Sometimes it's just out there as just like, hey, this is what it is. Go, if you can't stand this, go fuck off and go somewhere else. So with To Mega Therion, the album itself, like I mentioned before, it's a really, really heavy album. Of course, Necromantic Screams, the most notable song out of the album. But everything in this album is fucking amazing. But the album cover is what makes you want to buy this album. And unfortunately, I need to say I have yet to get To Mega Therion on my collection, which I do have more retails, but eventually I'm slowly getting every single album I've been talking as of far. I've been slowly but surely been getting these albums because eventually, I know one day in the Horseman podcast we're gonna do an episode somewhere in the future dedicated to controversial album covers, and I wanna be ready for whenever we do that episode, which hopefully is sooner rather than later. But this album cover, like I mentioned before, you have a demon as a slingshot and with a crucifix of Jesus Christ, kind of like throwing you the fingers, saying, "What are you gonna do about it, huh? What are you gonna do about it, fool?" It's just baffling my mind, and like I mentioned before, try to show this to your religious family member, and they'll fucking think you're fucking crazy, which you might be crazy, you might be not, depending on the person. But you know, Celtic Frost has always been a band that wants to push the boundaries of metal and has done so since the very beginning, back in the Hellhammer days, when a band of Hellhammer who were pretty much bastard rip-offs decided to one day change their name, already notable in their scene, and became Celtic Frost, and just began a hell of releases. Of course, I'm not counting Cold Lake. But regardless of that, to Mega Therion, just the iconography of itself makes it one of the most controversial album covers in all of metal. To some people, it might be their top three, maybe the top one. Like I mentioned before, I haven't really been ranking all these album covers, which I might do that eventually one day. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to rank all the controversial album covers I've done as so far. Maybe when I do episode number 10, I might be ranking maybe the 10 that I've done, depending on the date. But, you know, To Mega Therion, the album cover, the painting itself is so, like I'm pretty sure you've been seeing the entire painting the entire time, but just look at it. I mean, it's so evil, demonic, at the same time a bit sad, creepy as hell. I'm not saying it's beautiful, it's horrific, satanic, creepy, disgusting, blasphemous. I think that's like the big word you need to see on this album cover, blasphemous. Then again, almost all the album covers I've done as of lately have been blasphemous, but you know, it's Celtic Frost, it's To Mega Therion. Again, by this time, Celtic Frost was beginning to add more of a symphonic kind of thing, which eventually will spell out into like a symphonic black metal bands in the future. Of course, later on, being Deaf to, and then for some reason kind of went Cold Lake, but that's a different story. But regardless, To Mega Therion, this album cover is so iconic in Celtic Frost fans, to the point that I've seen a couple of people tattoo the album cover on their arms, which is a lot of dedication when you have somebody wanting to tattoo a controversial, blasphemous album cover into their body. That takes a lot of balls, and I give them respect to everyone who has done that so far. When any album cover, whether it's controversial or not, that's something that I do give credit to people who are die-hard, dedicated fans tattoo a piece of an album artwork into their bodies, especially being a blasphemous album cover like this one. It's kind of crazy to think that some people haven't been chased down like in the old days, persecuted as Satanists, and a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. But you know, To Mega Therion, great album, one of the most controversial album covers in existence, because you know it's a fucking demon slingshotting a crucifix of Jesus Christ. What more can I say about that? And that does it for the video, guys. I was going to really enjoy this new video. Like I mentioned before, we're still at the very top of the iceberg. I have yet so many album covers I need to tackle. Like I mentioned before, eventually I'm gonna do a Cannibal Corpse album cover, which pick your fucking poison on those. I could literally do an entire video ranking all of the Cannibal Corpse's album covers. That should be a lot of fun eventually in the future. But eventually I'm gonna be doing something a bit odd. Maybe I might go into like a more rock cover, which being in the 60s, 70s might be controversial. Maybe one day I'm gonna do. I might even tackle the original album cover of Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. It depends what comes to my mind. But like I mentioned before, guys, stay tuned for all those videos. Don't forget to comment, subscribe. Don't forget to follow my Instagram. Don't forget to follow me on my Twitter. Share this video with your friends and family. That way I can get more ideas, because I've really been enjoying making these videos, kind of talk about album covers that some people want more information and want to see why they're considered controversial, which I hope I'm doing a great job trying to describe all information in one video to you guys. Depending on the album covers, some album covers have more of a bigger history, others a bit of kind of a short history, but I try to elaborate as much as I can. But like I said before, guys, hope you guys really enjoy all these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time, stay metal.